been in a long time. Long time.
Oh, man. Remember him when he was with Ralph?
Awesome.
Yeah, on to the next. Looking back at, at the Michigan game, I thought it was kind of to build on the Maryland game. A game in which defensively we accomplished the things we wanted to. I thought that Demonte Williams was incredible. I thought the job he did on livers was good during the game, and then in our grade out session was by far and away our highest grade out defensively. I thought the three guards all took turns with Xavier Simpson. Did a great job with rear view closeouts, as we call them, chasing over the top of ball screens, which you have to do with him. And then was very pleased with our dominance on the glass. I think 31 points and 18 rebounds from G and Cove, and that was a big part of what we did there, and very impressed with that. We had we got the looks we wanted, and it was all in all it was a good night. And now it's on to the next, and you get a very good Old Dominion team that is an NCAA tournament team last year. 8 of their top 10 guys were part of that. It's an experienced team. They're elite defensively. One of the top teams in the country in steals. They have extremely active hands. They're very athletic. They're a hard team to score against, and so we know we've got our work cut out for them. They're a very good rebounding team of both ends of the court. Like they're top 5 in the country defensive rebounding, so that'll challenge our offensive rebounding numbers, and something we've got to be very good at. But they played their best game of late, in my opinion, in terms of the films I've watched. Really taking VCU, who's been ranked most of the year, down to the wire. So a lot of different actions, a lot of different sets. Xavier Green's a very, very good player. Got a tremendous mid-range game. He's got great range when he doesn't always have to deck it. But and then Malik Curry does a good job of running the show for him. So he's a 2-to-1 assist to turnover guy, and he's their engine. So we knew when we scheduled this, Jeff does an unbelievable job. He's been there a long time, and this is another game that keeps helping prepare you as you move forward.
Brad, you mentioned defense. What's different about your approach to defense this year, and how did it differ from your teams at Oklahoma State and Stephen F. Austin?
Well, you'll remember at Oklahoma State, we started 0-6 in league play, and we made a change that was basically backing off a step, allowing people to catch. And at SFA, we had an elite on-ball defender. We were a team that took a ton of charges. We were a team that was undersized, and even at Oklahoma State, we were a team that played a little more the last 2/3 of the year like we did now. Again, we keep tweaking it. One of the things that we did a lot of analytics this summer with Sweet 16 teams, with teams in our conference, from a rebounding perspective, from free throw percentage perspective, from minutes played with your best players. We dove into a lot of that, and I think one of the things that I was very concerned about were the free throw numbers, and how do we eliminate those so we can keep guys on the floor, maybe a little more. Keep guys, continue to get to the foul line, because we've emphasized that a lot. And so, I think we've just been a little more, I don't want to say passive, that's not the right word to use defensively, but we've just backed it up a step, and then it's helped us you know, obviously with Kofi's presence at the rim has changed things. So, you know, that was another reason that we felt like we needed to make a change. You know, SFA, I didn't have anybody over 6'6" or 6'7". Obviously having 7 foot 300 is got to do things a little different, so you've got to adapt.
In the last couple of games, bringing Trey off the bench, have you seen anything different from him in that role? And maybe what about that role suits him so well? Because he's, you know, been productive last year.
It's
And this.
unbelievable what he did. And it's why we did it. You know, there are a couple reasons. I like the matchups early. You know, with DeMonte. I think DeMonte's one of the elite defenders that I've coached, and he's continuing to prove that. It slides Io back a little bit instead of taking Io on small forwards. But more importantly, it's what Dre brings. And I think he was 4 or 5 in the first half. That's an unbelievable punch that's coming in when you're bringing one of your best players off the bench and establishing that identity. You know, and it's you know, it's a very mature way of thinking for him. You know, and he knows into the Maryland game, the ball's in his hands. The other night, at the end of the game, he's in. He's the one that understands that it doesn't matter who starts, and yet he impacts the game at a very, very high level when he does come in. So it's helped our team, and he's a very mature young man in understanding that, and it's impacted our bench production a lot.
Understanding that you just answered the question about how the defense has changed, I wonder if your staff changes had any effect on your analytic approach or coaching day in, day out?
The analytics, no. You know, the staff stuff, I mean, Jamal does an unbelievable job. He's been in a system that's been very similar. Obviously, Stephen was in a system at Gonzaga that was very, very similar. They were one of the outstanding defensive teams in the country, but it was something we've been talking about since the spring. You know, and our foul rate, was compromised so much last year because we didn't get to the line, and then we didn't offensive rebound, and it stressed us so much. We had to find a solution, and Kofi. You know, and I mean, I can back and say it. I mean, Kofi's a difference maker with that size at the front of the rim. So, you know, we had to tweak a couple things, and to be honest, it hasn't been anything super drastic in terms of you know, we back up a couple steps, but you know, it's something that we felt had to be done.
Brett, when it comes to DeMonte's defense, are there anything besides what we could all see plainly, but numbers or metrics that tell you what his defense is doing?
Yeah, I mean, we grade out every game on, you know, over 40 minutes, the points against, and part of that is I should have brought it, and we've got it. I'll bring it, let you guys see it sometime. It's all of our contest, it's positioning, it's lack of mistakes. And you throw all of that in and understand that we play in a league where there's going to be a lot of really, really good players. There's pros. And sometimes they're going to make really good shots. When you put DeMonte's mental piece and understanding scouting report, and then you do that with his length, he's up there just about every night when he grades out. So there's just a lot of things. I mean, his intelligence, he's physically strong. You know, and you know, you take that 7-foot wingspan, you know, that bothers people.
You guys led for a lot of minutes last 2 games despite only shooting 16% from 3. How have you assessed the looks you've gotten there? Is there anything you can do to improve that, or just making shots?
Yeah, you know, I think there's those same guys that have made a lot of threes. You know, over the last year, over the last 2 years, you know, again, and I think that's what we're trying to always become, is that team that can survive when you don't have it. And You know, that Trent got a couple of really good looks. You know, I think that we're not taking as many in transition, which has been something that may make that fluctuate a little bit. But I also think that in the Michigan game, they're one of the top teams in the country in not giving up attempts and not giving up makes, because they don't help much. They stay pretty tight, and we knew that that was going to come in, and that was going to be a game that was going to be dictated by the two. But you know, again, and I'm okay with it. We're going to be we're a good shooting team. You know, Allen got a couple good looks, and in the Maryland game, he got a good look the other night. He's an elite shooter, and so you know, we're getting the right ones, and I feel good about the ones we're getting, and I like our balance. We're not taking 25 of them, and we're getting the ball in an area where we're very, very efficient. We're one of the top 2-point field goal percentage efficiency teams in the country, so I like efficiency no matter where it comes from.
Right, you've emphasized getting to the foul line more this year, but you're also fouling less as a result. I mean, your opponent's free throws, attempts, and makes are way less than your attempts and makes. Is that another thing that's attributed to your defense and the personnel that you have on this year's team that attributes to that?
Well, we've stressed it very hard since the end of the season, and not only not fouling, but more importantly, getting to the line, and again, it's an aggressiveness. When you get to the foul line, you know, it's one of the things I've always been so impressed with Roy Williams' teams over the course of the years when he was at Kansas and North Carolina. I mean, they get to the foul line at an unbelievable rate. Well, they're aggressive on the offensive end, and that's a statistic that is very hard to overcome sometimes. And you know, when we're getting there and shooting more and making more than our opponents are shooting, that's a good thing. That's an advantage to us, and it shows the connectivity we've had defensively. You know, it doesn't matter what defense you play. Freshmen usually foul, and that was part of our deal last year, but it wasn't always compounded by the fact that we didn't make smart fouls. And it's just become a point of emphasis since the last game last year. We were going to make those changes, and we had to quit doing that.
Brad in the back, two-part question. Over the next couple weeks, what are you kind of hoping to see for the last stretch of non-conference before the grind of Big Ten play starts up? And do you guys plan on getting Tevian kind of worked in here over the next couple weeks?
Yeah, you know, I think we undid Tevian's leave at a really kind of a tough time as we go into Big Ten play. We've got an opportunity here, and especially next week, to to start letting him earn his minutes with really quality practice time. I think there's a lot of things we've got to continue to clean up. We've got to look at some secondary things defensively. You get out of game prep mode, you can start working on those things. We've got to continue to work, on the offensive end in terms of what we could possibly see in league play as we move forward. We know some teams double the post. We know some teams don't. We've just got a variety of things that when you don't have game prep that you can actually work on, continue to work on late game stuff, continue to work on, side out of bounds plays when you need a three, or those are the type of things that become very important. And the way we're playing and the way this league is set up, I mean, they're all going to be 2-possession games, so that stuff becomes vital.
Brad, with DeMonte's defense, was it a day one thing that you saw when you got here that he had this, or has there been growth in that? And can you kind of take me back to the moment that you realized that he was an elite defender?
Well, I think we realized his IQ the first day. I think that's why DeMonte, if you remember, had no summer, no fall camp, nothing. Day one of practice was the day he was cleared, and yet he impacted practice because of his IQ. Then his toughness, and now when you add 2 years of growth and experience, there's not anything that DeMonte hasn't seen in a scouting report. There's nothing he hasn't seen, and now he understands his role on that end. And, so he's diving in. I mean, he made the comment, he goes, I'm shutting livers out, or livers out. I mean, he was fired up about that opportunity, and that's the pride that you like to see. And he didn't shut him out, because he's a really good player, but taking on that challenge is pretty special. And now the experience of just being a junior and physically stronger and in great shape, and that's a guy that can guard a lot of different positions in our league.
You talk about nameless and faceless with opponents, and now you're not going up against 2 top 5 teams from your league. Is this an identity thing where now can you get the same intensity no matter who you're playing?
We're gonna find out, aren't we? It's an important game tomorrow, and it's the next one on the schedule. And we keep challenging these guys. However many times we get to put those uniforms on, it's not very many. For as much work as you put in for 11 months of the year to play 35 games, or however many we get to play this year, and it's the mental preparation, the mental approach, and there was a quote I read a little while back about Michael Jordan, and it was match me, match my preparation, match my attitude, match my effort, because he brought it every single day, and I think match my intensity, and he mentions all those things, and that's what great leaders do, and we're developing that on our team. And again, nameless, faceless. It does not matter who we play. And the things we've done defensively, Derek, are things that have to be carried over. And regardless of whether we shoot 33%, 53%, those are the things that we got to get to.
Brad, Kofi issued an apology today for the clearly accidental and unintentional. Was he yesterday? Sorry, it was yesterday. But how's he doing? I think that could rattle somebody a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, Kofi's an unbelievable human being, and it was just a spontaneous outburst after a really big play and a really big game, and when those things happen, you feel, he's a compassionate kid. He's got a big heart, and he's such a likable kid, and so yeah, I mean, he's been fine, and but he's very sincere in his apology and wanting Lewis to be okay, and it's just an unfortunate situation.
I guess maybe back to the 3-point shooting. Before the year, there was kind of the idea that it might go down just based on the line moving back, and what happened to the NIT when they tested it. I mean, do you feel like that's made a difference? Because I think the percent decrease is kind of like in the range that everyone's kind of discussing. It might be.
Yeah, I think it's 2 to 3%. I mean, I think what it's done is it's taken a marginal shooter and made it more difficult. I think shooters are really, no matter, they're comfortable wherever they are, that they can shoot that. And you take away the first game of the year for Trent, and he's shooting the ball pretty well, and Allen's a really good shooter. The line doesn't bother him, but I think it does impact certain guys. I think it impacts a 32, 33% 3-point shooter who you might be worried about before is probably down in that 27, 28, 29 range, and maybe you don't give that guy as much attention and dare him to make 1 or 2. Yeah, it's impacted the game a little bit, and I don't think it's impacted it in terms of the way we're trying to coach it or not coach it, but I do think it's impacted the game in terms of kids' ability to make it.
With Tev, how much does he have to make up as far as on-court chemistry with his teammates? And there's been a scout team, obviously, when he was out. Is that a big key, or what else is that?
And I think that's part of the challenge of next week is finding those minutes with the core guys, and not running with the scout team all the time, and he's been an unbelievable scout player, you know, but, you know, just trying to figure out where that's at, where those minutes come, how they come, and finding that comfort there. So, you know, we all know that there's opportunities that Tev can help, and we'll have to figure out where those become.
This needs to be the last question, so we can get players done.
Following that theme, has your philosophy changed at all about short bench versus long bench?
I think my philosophy is about winning. I mean, putting the best players on the court, and however we have to do that. And you know, I always go back to my first year at Stephen F. and played 7 guys predominantly, major minutes. That bench grew as it could. We had 9 or 10 guys that were close to playing double-figure minutes. But you know, if it's winning time, we're going to put the best guys out there that give us the best opportunity, and along the way, that's may include a short bench, may include having to play a few more guys.
Okay.
Thanks, guys.